Hey guys, so we're back with this week's episode of Coffee Talk with Megan. This week, I'm going to be going over a couple items that came up from my last and first episode, which went really well. I had some very positive feedback from it, so super excited about that. I had a couple comments and questions that I want to address in this episode. So, you may have noticed in the comments on my first episode that Sandra Dodd, the godmother, the ultimate human compendium of knowledge on all things unschooling, liked and subscribed to my channel and left me a comment and wrote me a little personal message and absolutely made my life, made my day. I was like a giddy fangirl when I heard from her. And the reason is because Sandra Dodd is such an incredible resource, and her website, sandradodd.com, that's Dodd with two D's at the end, DODD.com, her website changed my life. That's where I cut my unschooling teeth, as you might say. It was the first website I came across when I was sort of desperately searching for an alternative to school and homeschooling, because I really did not want to bring my son home from school only to create school at home. And that's the first time I learned about unschooling, and it blew my mind and changed the course of my life and my kids' lives. So I just have a tremendous amount of respect for Sandra Dodd and her clarity of thinking and writing, which has helped thousands worldwide, and that's not an exaggeration. So anyways, Sandra contacted me and commented that she doesn't always think comparison is bad. I talked about comparison in my first episode and how comparing kids is not good. And so I was thinking about what she said, and I realized that when we use comparison of our children to sort of gauge appropriate expectations of our children, that's when it's helpful. We don't talk about it to the kids. Don't compare and talk about it to your kid's face, and don't talk about it with other kids. Just something maybe internally that you go over is sort of, if you're in a group of 8-year-olds, and you realize all 8-year-olds kind of share similar personalities. There's maybe most of them. Of course, there's not all of anything, especially humans. But maybe they all have a kind of a hard time sitting down, and they like to run around a lot. 8-year-olds are energetic. Okay, so if you have an 8-year-old that's super lethargic and sitting home all day, because even when my kid was 9 and watching a lot of TV, he was still moving. He would, he had energy to expend. So he wasn't exactly just lying there. He would be moving. He'd be wrestling with his siblings. He'd be doing something else, playing cards, TV kind of going at the same time. So that's, if your kid seems sick, well, you know what a healthy kid looks like. So you're going to make a comparison. So in that sense, to provide some clarity on what I meant, comparison can be very helpful. But when you're using it to your child, especially with siblings, because comparing one sibling to another, to the kids themselves, saying, why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your sister? That's a really fantastic way to create sibling rivalry and kids that do not like each other. So keeping that sort of comparison in your head and not comparing to the kid's face, that's when it's not helpful. When you're saying, Johnny is reading novels, why aren't you even reading yet? That's not a good comparison, and it isn't helpful. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is a question that I got from my mom, Caitlin. She wanted me to talk a little bit more about my son transitioning into high school, my 14-year-old who hadn't been to school since 3rd grade and went into high school this past year. And because she has a son, she's also an unschooler, and she has a son who's 12 who decided to go back to school. And things have been going well, but they also get rough because she's feeling like him being in school is kind of bringing out her old schoolish behaviors. So, and schoolish type thinking, because she's sort of reverting back to an authoritarian type of parenting, because now there's the school placing judgment on her child. So she was sort of asking me how am I dealing with this? And I want to say that even though my son is going to school, I'm still applying the unschooling principles that I worked very hard to really get a grasp on. Because I know a lot of people must think, oh, unschooling, so easy. Just bring your kids home from school and you don't do anything. Amazing. And that's really couldn't be further from the truth. Unschooling is challenging for the parents, and it requires time and patience and thoughtfulness and diligence and a lot of learning on the parents' part. Okay, so unschooling takes practice, all right? And whenever we change any type of behavior, so this is how this conversation can apply to other places besides just unschooling, is whenever we're changing behaviors, it takes work and it takes time, because we get in habits and we have old belief systems and old paradigms, and trying to change those is an effort. It's not something you just decide that you're going to be a different person tomorrow and wake up and you are that person. Well, maybe some of you, but not me. For me, it's constant reminders all the time. And in the beginning, a lot of just self-analysis and learning and watching and yeah. Okay, so moving on. So she says specifically her question is, how do you find the best ways to support your 14-year-old in the transitioning to public school while also not reverting back to authoritarian parenting? Okay, so I support my son transitioning into public school by what it is that support means. I get him to school. I want to help him if he needs help. He doesn't want my help, but I'm there for him, and I try to make it an enjoyable experience for him. And I don't revert back to authoritarian parenting because I really don't care about the grades. I don't care at all about the grades. If he's tardy and they send me a tardy, I don't really care about that either. I think a big part of the reason my son is back in school is for a social experience. He really wanted to make some friends his own age and hang out with kids that, you know, he just wanted to be a part of something, and he never really found that connection in the unschooling world, where my other kids did. They found more connections. You know, we went to countless park days, and he really didn't like any classes, and he would make friends at the unschooling conferences, but then they would end up living pretty far away, and so those relationships would kind of fizzle out. So I think he really wanted to be a part of something. So I know the reason that he's in school. He also did want to learn academic learning. He thinks that there are certain things he should know, and he wants to learn them. And so I'm here to support him in that journey. I'm here to support him having more friends. I'm here to support him learning whatever he thinks he needs to learn. If he thinks he needs to learn it in a traditional classroom with a book, fabulous. Go. As long as he's happy, that's my meter. That's how if I saw him coming home crying every day and upset, it would be hard for me to support this decision. But I think that he has the wherewithal to where he wouldn't want to go back to school if he was that way. But he's happy there, and his grades don't mean anything to me. And other people's opinions on that don't mean anything to me. So I'll read you something, because a very similar question to this came up in a Yahoo group called Always Learning. So anyway, somebody wrote in about their child going back to school and finding out that their kid had skipped a class and the school calling, and the mom just totally reverted back to, you're grounded and this is not allowed, and all those, like, I guess, expected punishments, because the school and our peers do expect us to punish our children for certain things, bad grades, skipping school. And anyways, so this was my response. I'm going to read you my written response. My My son has been tardy a couple of times for classes, and I have no idea how he's doing with his schoolwork. I never see him studying, but we do talk about the different books he's been reading for English class. His top priority for going to school seems to be a connected social life, which he is achieving. He's made many friends and seems to be having a lot of fun during his hours away. School is 100% his choice, and I will support him however he needs. I'm expecting some low grades on his report card because I know he's missed some big projects, and like I said, he doesn't study. How society expects me to react to his low grades or tardies means nothing to me. The school has its own consequences, punishments, for transgressions against their rules, and my son understands that. He also knows that he won't suffer any consequences at home for what he does or doesn't do in school, with the exception of hurting another person, okay, which is not his thing. He doesn't do that, so I'm not worried. Home is still a safe place. If he chooses to not study and get bad grades, then his report card will reflect that, and we can go from there. I've offered to help him, but he turns me down and seems very uncomfortable on his own. I choose to approach this as an unschooling parent. Communication, understanding, and appropriate expectations are paramount. His happiness is my meter, and right now he's flying high. That's the point that I'm at. That's where I'm at. I'm so confident with what we're doing that I know my son is getting something out of school, whether or not his report cards say A's or F's. There's something there that he's learning, that he's getting, that's helping him, and he's a happy kid, and he's doing great in every other area of life. So, why am I going to fret over a letter on a piece of paper? I'm not. Like, subscribe, and ask me questions. I love this. This is so fun. I hope everybody has a great week.